Okay, Claire, welcome to the Your PT pod.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you in the seat opposite me today. Thanks for taking the time as well. You've travelled some distance to be here today.
I have. I've come down from Manchester.
Yeah?
Yeah, a bit of a trek, but it's worth it to be here, to be sitting opposite you.
Fantastic. No, that's fantastic. I've been really excited for today, genuinely, because, I mean, we've known each other for a few years. Mm-hmm. You've been involved in Your PT twice over your career so far.
I have, yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about that today. But every time we talk and every time we connect, whether it be on email or at an event or at, something Your PT are delivering, you always come across as super personable, super knowledgeable. And I just really enjoy your energy. So it's great that you're here. And I think we're going to get so much value out of today's session.
Hopefully. Thank you. That's a really lovely intro. I hope I don't disappoint.
I work on my intros, Jay. Okay. I mean, for this podcast is aimed at personal trainers in the industry or considering joining the industry. So let's start with a real kind of basic part of who is Claire? Why did you get into PT? And what are you doing to date?
Yeah, so who am I? That's a big question, isn't it? Well, I've been working as a personal trainer for just over 3 years now, so still fairly new in the grand scheme of things. In terms of how I got into personal training, this is always a great question because I think a lot of PTs out there had some sort of background in sports or something relevant to the industry, a sports science degree or something like that. For me, it all just sort of came from the love of looking after my health. And I, back when I went to university, I actually studied for a music degree, which not everyone knows about me.
Yeah, nice.
I studied classical and jazz singing, was playing cello in string quartets and orchestras on the side. And then I moved into a communications role. So I was doing public relations, working with brands on their communications, essentially helping brands look good.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 6 years after I graduated, which I did enjoy, but I never found it gave me that sort of sparkle. It was really stressful at times as well. It was often a lot of really long hours, not the best pay at times, lots of overtime without that overtime pay as well, which is never what we want. And I think I just got to a point where I thought, if I'm doing all these extra hours and not getting paid for them, I at least want to do it doing something that I really love.
Yeah.
And then the first lockdown hit, and that was when I decided to start taking my own health really seriously. So up until that point, I wasn't really interested in my health in the way that I am now.
Yeah.
I wasn't working out. I wasn't even sort of running. I wasn't really eating all that well either. So because I was quite stressed a lot of the time with work, I was kind of that classic poster girl for going to the gym when life was good, sticking at it for a month or so, and then falling off the wagon when I got really busy.
Okay.
And I'd be having a glass of wine or two in the evenings because I was stressed. And when that first lockdown hit, I started to take my health a bit more seriously. I actually did the couch to 5K. That was the first thing that really got me into my exercise. And I was really embarrassed at first because that first week on the couch to 5K, I think it was a minute of running. That would be long, wouldn't it? A minute of running and then 2 minutes of walking. Okay. And I was really gassed after that minute of running. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to make a change here. So I stuck with it. Got through it all, completed it, started feeling really good about myself, started feeling healthy, seeing the benefits of it, no longer getting out of breath, just, walking to the shops. And then as soon as the gyms reopened, which I think was around August of that year, I started going to the gym again, taking the strength side of things a bit more seriously. And I just loved the way it made me feel. And I thought, this is fantastic, and just proving to myself that I can do hard things, that I can take my health from a really low place to actually quite a good place and then an even better place. I felt so good, and it really set me up for the work that I was doing at the time. I was no longer feeling as stressed because I thought, you know what, I can do these hard things. I can get up early, I can go to the gym and then go and do my work for the day afterwards. and come back and not feel like I need a glass of wine just to take the edge off. It was really a really nice feeling.
Yeah, and an empowering experience as well.
So empowering, yeah.
Because you kind of, you're in a situation where you're dissatisfied and you found your way through that period through exercise.
That's it. And it really, it's dramatic, but it almost saved me in a way, because I was really down and out at times and thinking, gosh, I feel really stagnant and like, where is my life going? And I don't feel fulfilled. And it just gave me something to get out of bed for. And it, like I said, it just made me feel so good. And that was when I decided I want to start helping other people understand how good this feels. And I want to be the person to sort of open that doorway for other people who feel like they're maybe, heading towards rock bottom, not happy with their lives, not happy with what they see in the mirror, feeling out of breath walking to the shops.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what all started it for me. So I handed in my notice and I signed on to do my level 3. And that was that, really.
And here we are.
Here we are, 3 years later.
It's amazing. I think, when I look at personal trainers, successful personal trainers actually in the industry, many have come from a sporting competitive background, or they've come from a personal experience where they've really changed their life through exercise, and they feel like they want to pass that on to other people.
That's it,
which is such a lovely kind of place to be. You've had your own personal journey, and you can relate to your clients going through their personal journeys as well. But if we take a step back and go to the PR stuff, that's quite interesting. I didn't know this. So you spent a bit of time in PR and marketing. Yeah. Sedentary role, pretty sedentary?
Very sedentary, very desk side. Occasionally we'd go out and work on events, but it's pretty much, I would say 9 to 5, but a lot of the time it's more like 8 to 7, sometimes even 8 to 8.
So you're stretching
just
yourself?
Sitting at a desk, And I was taking the bus to work as well. It was before I had a car. So I was getting up in the morning, sitting on the bus, sitting at a desk all day, sitting on the bus, going to bed, repeat.
But I guess a lot of things around PR is around positioning and effective marketing. Naturally, you would have learned a lot in that sector that you now apply to your PT business.
Exactly. So I don't regret working in PR at all. I think it gave me a really good foot in the door for what I do now. And it's set me up really well for understanding, building businesses, understanding the importance of branding, tone of voice, understanding your target audience and your demographics that you're working to bring into your business as well. And that's been really, really valuable. So when I was doing my level 3 training, I'd left my job at this point. I went freelance for a year doing copywriting and public relations. And it meant that I had some extra time on my hands to start looking into the sorts of demographics that I wanted to work with, and also just having a look at the market in general to see if there were any gaps that I was quite interested in. And I actually noticed that a lot of the marketing that's in the fitness industry is quite aggressive. If you look around, there's lots of blacks, reds, dark blues. There's lots of messaging that's sort of saying, unlock your beast mode, drive hard, performance.
I'm trying to think of our marketing messaging. I'm like, do we say that?
No, I think you're very approachable. But what I wanted to achieve was to create a brand that spoke to people who were a bit more like me, that weren't necessarily from a sporting background where they'd grown up in this world of fast-paced, elite performance, be the best you can be, who just wanted to give themselves a better life. So they didn't want to be in the gym 6 days a week for hours on end, and they didn't want to be doing really extreme cuts or bulks, and they just wanted to learn to move a bit better, feel good about themselves, eat a little bit better, boost their mental health, but not be this, kind of aggressive sort of icon of everything that a lot of the fitness industry encompasses in terms of the rage and the be the best you can be. And
I think a lot of that these days is persona and kind of trying to rise above the noise. There's so much, noise and visual stimulus out there now. It's kind of hard to decide on, what's good and what's great. I always think about the hard to reach within our communities, and how are we conveying a message to the hard to reach who are starting at their couch to 10K and couch to 5K, and they're a bit nervous about using the gym. This brash marketing isn't very attractive, is it, to that audience?
And so a lot of the clients that I work with now are beginners or intermediates, even people that have had a gym membership for a while but didn't quite know what they were doing with it, who are very intimidated by the gym. I work with all sorts of people these days, which I love. I love the variety, but these are probably my favourite people to work with because I think they're the ones that have the most to learn and that I find the most rewarding to work with, because you can affect so much change with them. And there's something really lovely about bringing people in who feel so intimidated in that environment or don't know where to get started, and just to kind of hold their hand through it a little bit, still obviously pushing them to get the results that they're paying for, but to just help them realise that actually it doesn't have to be this intimidating space where you have to be at peak performance and pushing yourself to the limit all the time, pushing yourself just past your comfort zone to get those results that you came for, but without making huge compromises to your lifestyle as it is already.
And you mentioned this earlier, Jay, so it all comes back to a feeling. So for you, it was a feeling of, wow, you know, I'm moving forward, I'm taking control of my life and my health. And I suppose the feeling for your clients is going to be different. It's personal to them, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's completely personal to everyone. But if you can tap into your client's mindset and understand what they're actually looking to gain from working with you, and then, you know, devise your programming around that, adjust the intensity of things dependent on where they're at with things currently and what they're looking to achieve, and just help them find their footing in not just the gym, but with nutrition and all the lifestyle elements that come with it, whether it's sleep, whether it's stress management. You can make a huge difference to people's lives, and that's what really roped me in within my first year of training, and that's what gets me excited to get out of bed every morning.
Fantastic. Lovely to hear that. And it's exactly the same for me. You know, my pathway, I was working in operations, running health clubs, and I was like, do you know what? I don't like being in an office. I want to be helping people, motivating them, inspiring them to create a better life. And that's exactly what it comes down to.
Amazing.
In terms of your involvement with your personal training, you're part of our network within the UK, based in Manchester. You've had some experience now, Jay, within our ranks of operating from kind of local authority gyms or public sector, shall we say. And you've also had some experience at a private gym and a standalone facility, which you're currently based at as well. So what's been your experience in both iterations? So we're from the public sector and also the private sector facilities that you've operated from.
That's a good question. Do you mean in terms of the clientele or my experience working on the gym floor?
Yeah, in terms of the clientele, how you've positioned yourself from a marketing perspective. Have you done anything different? Or have your success traits just been kind of consistent across the two venues?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I don't think I've done anything wildly different, but because I've been doing this just over 3 years now, and obviously every year I take it on myself to try and level up my skills in some way so that I can improve my service offering and give something bigger and better every time. So I suppose my own services evolved naturally over time anyway. But as you say, I've sort of started out in the commercial gyms. I went to a private gym for a short time where I'd say the biggest difference was probably just the clientele. They've still got the same issues, but they're just, kind of walking a different life in a lot of ways, because they tend to, drive big flashy cars and, they're very much there tends to be a bit more image-based. Okay. Whereas a lot of the clientele that I work with at more of the commercial gyms tend to be more people that are just wanting to improve their health, maybe feel a bit stuck in a rut with their physical and sometimes mental health as well. And they want to just have a starting point. They want to come in and start moving, feeling a bit better, moving a bit better. I don't think I can't say there's been wild differences in terms of my approach with working with the people from different sectors, because you get people from all sorts of different backgrounds in the two variants of gym. But
what it's worth, I think that's the right answer.
I didn't realise there was a right and wrong answer. I'm so glad I passed.
Tick for that one. But because ultimately, I think PTs often get hung up on the idea they have to do something different. They have to impress. They have to go outside of the box. And sometimes, if you take a step back, the tried and tested methods always work. So what you maybe delivered in a commercial gym or a private gym versus a public gym, it doesn't really matter, because you need a strategy, you need a flow that you can be consistent with.
That's it, yeah.
And you've clearly demonstrated that, by operating successfully in different venues. So if we look at that for an instance, what methods do you currently use or have used effectively previously to help attract clients into your services?
Oh, yes. I quite like this question. Because of my background in public relations, there was a lot of crossover with marketing there as well. So there's so many different ways that you can market yourself as a personal trainer. Obviously, I've been spoilt because my first taste of personal training was working with you guys at your personal training. And you guys do a really good job of helping to upskill your PTs and giving us strategies for not only walking the gym floor, but, offering, I remember my first week, I was told to offer challenges on the gym floor to entice people in, and sitting out the front with a clipboard, signing people up for taster sessions. That's kind of like your bread and butter, walking the gym floor, chatting to people, starting those conversations, and being wary, I'd say, not to directly sell to people in the first instance, but just to be as present as possible. Get yourself known, get yourself a bit of a reputation as being the helpful person that's always around, always smiling and saying hello, without directly selling to people, because people don't like to be sold to. They like to be given free advice and free help. So just being as present as possible, walking the gym floor, chatting to people. Like I say, things like the challenges were great. My biggest tip for this, actually, in terms of marketing within the club itself, is getting friendly with the receptionists. I think this is so underrated. But the first person that you see as you walk through that gym door is going to be the receptionist every morning. So if you get friendly with those receptionists, get a bit chummy, maybe bring them a coffee from time to time.
Is that what you do? Is that the tactic? Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Well, who doesn't like a coffee, But if you can become friendly with them, then as soon as new members sign up or someone walks in and says, I've been at this gym for 3 months and I've not really used it because I don't know where to start. Who do I speak to? They're going to be giving that new client your business card. And I've seen it at every gym I've worked at. There'll be personal trainers who they come in, head down, do their sessions, and even if they do a fantastic job of the sessions with their clients, but they're not taking the time to get to know the staff on site. And I just think that's a huge thing to overlook.
100%.
Because it's your easiest marketing tool.
100%. I think the team approach is so important for personal trainers. And we often think, personal trainers is a tough gig because you're in isolation, you're working alone, you're self-employed. But actually, it's down to the personal trainers. Their responsibility as well to reach out and start building a network, building relationships with the wider team, getting involved in the team meetings, getting involved in outreach activities. They seem basic, but a lot of PTs miss the connection there in the early days. So
definitely.
I think that's a really important point.
I think another thing that, and this is my personal opinion, and I'm sure people will disagree with me on this. Let's go controversial.
We like controversy,
I think if for coaches that are working with an online audience, social media is really important. But in my experience, for face-to-face trainers, you definitely need to keep some social media up and running as a bit of a shop window. But I think some face-to-face coaches are very quick to pour so much of their energy and time and resource into social media. Whereas if you're working with people face-to-face, especially if you're trying to get up and running, I would argue that your time is better spent actually on the gym floor, being present at your gym. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean you can't be doing that social media stuff on in the background. But if you look at your engagement, especially if you're a new personal trainer, you've just got your PT social media accounts up and running. You're not going to be getting that much back from the algorithm at this stage anyway. So by all means, use it as a shop window so that if people check you out, they can see what you're doing. But don't put all of, don't hang your hat on social media, because you just need to be seen and making networking, making conversation with people and building out that network.
I think that's a very relevant point. And I do kind of look at personal trainers joining the industry, and I get why they might be confused and why they might think that is the best way of advertising. But for me, I'm always looking in the early days to establish meaningful interaction. And it's really difficult to have any meaningful interaction with someone online. Whereas in the gym, you can feed off body language, you can get your conversation flowing, you can build up your contact rates. As you correctly said earlier, I think, Jay, it's not about getting the sale in the first instance. It's about building a relationship and getting to know people. And then that adoption phase starts happening, doesn't it? With PT.
100%. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. What does a day in the life of a successful PT look like? So if you're, you should be very proud. You built a fantastic business, Jay. So that doesn't happen overnight. But now I'd imagine 3 years in, you probably have the ability to have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more control. And that doesn't happen. You've done the hard yards, you've done the taster session. So what does a typical day look like? So when you're operating at the level you are?
Another great question. You're absolutely right. When you're first starting out, you just sort of take all the shifts you can get your hands on, get your bills paid, get the experience. And I am in a position now where I've got a bit more control over my day. Well, to be honest, I've got total control over my diary now, and I'm in a really privileged position to have that freedom to choose my hours like I do, and it's really lovely because like I say, back when I was in public relations, I was doing some horrible hours at times, and like I say, if you're doing overtime, it might as well be doing something you like. So when I first started, I was doing lots of hours and taking whatever shifts I could get, working mornings, early mornings, late nights, weekends, you name it. But now I've kind of condensed my time down and I've got something that really works well for me. So I do a bit of hybrid training at the moment. So I do mornings on the gym floor with my face-to-face clients, and then I have my afternoons working from home, working with my online clients and building out my community and the engagement side of things from home, which really works for me. So I'm a big fan of time blocking. So, long gone are the days of, taking clients all hours of the day whenever you can grab them. I'm all about efficiency. So my typical day, I get up and I start at 7 a.m. I do 4 hours back to back, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did try doing more than 4 hours, but I found my concentration would go in that 5th hour.
Okay.
And if, your concentration is so key. We're not here to give half-assed sessions, are we? So 4 hours in the morning, and then afternoon I'll come home, I'll do a bit of training, training myself.
And you protect that time, so you diarise that time to make sure that there's no...
Yeah, so it's scheduled in. So I'll finish my morning sessions at 11. I'll have my pre-workout meal, and get a bit of admin done on my laptop. And then once that's digested, I'll go and do my training for an hour and a half. Yeah. And then I'll head home, and I handle my online clients and work on the community that I've been building with all of my clients. They all get to take part in the community.
That's amazing, yeah.
And it's great, and I don't work weekends anymore.
Yeah, and it's so important for to establish that work-life balance, to really have boundaries. I think the boundaries are quite blurred, aren't they, in the early days?
I think so, and I've definitely known personal trainers that will kind of wear long hours like a badge of honour, and if that's your passion and you want to be doing 60-hour weeks, good for you. I'm all for that, and I think that's amazing. I'm impressed because I couldn't do it. I'd burn out doing those sorts of hours. But for me, I've just found something that really works and gives me time to enjoy some downtime as well as feel like I'm working hard and providing a good level of service to the clients that I have. Yeah. So it's so independent, and everyone's version of fully booked is different as well. Some people's idea of fully booked is the 60 hours, some people it's 40, some people it's 20. So that's the lovely thing about this industry. You can really tailor it to what you want your life to be, and it's great.
100%. Yeah, I don't think anyone should ever prejudge anyone's aspirations. And I think the point the PTs need to get right in the early days is establishing their aspirations.
100%.
Because otherwise you do run the risk of following someone else's dream, someone else's goal. And that happens all the time. Yeah. You often find you kind of like, well, what is your actual goal? And the PT will be like, well, I just want to be like him. Yeah. And you're like, why? There's no rationale. There's no explanation for it. But It sounds like you've made a concerted effort, Jay, to build a business that's sustainable and it's going to last.
That's
and
the
it's
plan.
going to, it's going to serve you and
Check
allow
in
you.
5 years, we'll see where I'm at.
100%. So again, you very much see yourself as building a brand, I guess, within your services, which is amazing. And, what would be the long-term aspirations of that brand? Where do you see yourself getting to on that level?
One of my clients asked me this last week, actually. And I've got to be honest, at the moment, yes, I feel like I'm building a business rather than, just being a sole trader that's just getting paycheck to paycheck. But at the moment, because I'm only 3 years in, I've thought about this so much. And to be honest, I don't know where I see myself going in the future. And the reason for that is because I'm really happy where I am right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure down the line I'll want to specialise and branch out. And at the moment I'm doing some CPD in pre and postnatal because one of my clients became pregnant last year, and I thought that's great. I want to be able to keep helping you with that. So that gave me a bit of a reason to level up. So that's definitely a route that I'm branching off into.
Yes.
But I don't want to lose sight of all the stuff I've been doing at the moment because I love the diversity of the work that I do at the moment. I really love being on the gym floor with my clients. I'm always going to prefer that to working online because I just find it's so much more personable, and for me personally it works fantastically for some other coaches, but that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put myself in a box and say that I'll never branch out because I probably will, but right now I just really love where I'm at with things, and I've spent the last 3 years getting my business to where it is now, and I'm just enjoying that for the time being.
Got to enjoy
and
the
I don't
process.
think there's anything wrong with that,
There's not. You've got to enjoy the process because we spend a lot of time working. So you've got to embrace everything, and also you need to let your business develop organically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel forced. It sounds to me like you've kind of cracked the one-to-one PT. You've diversified now to different business stream. And that's working really well.
Yeah.
And eventually that might be multiple business streams.
Yeah.
And that's great.
It is. I think, we live in a very fast-paced society where we're always being pushed to level up and to be as successful as possible. And I think that's fantastic. And that's definitely given me a kick up the arse a couple of times to drive things forward. But I think it's very easy to lose sight of how far you've come and where you've got to. Yeah. And it's very easy to just not take a breath and think, actually, I've been working really hard for 3 years. So I'm just going to enjoy where I am right now for a little bit and just not necessarily take your foot off the gas, but just breathe it all in for a little bit and not feel that pressure to constantly be pushing onwards and upwards, at least for now. Yeah. I will get that ambition is never going to go away for me, but I'm just enjoying where I'm at for now.
Yeah, the drive and the hunger's there, but it comes across in your daily method of operations, so to speak, is that you've got your block time and you've protected time for yourself as well to re-energize. Because I think a lot of PTs might miss that part of the puzzle as well, taking some time back, relaxing, recovering, to give your clients the best that you can give.
100%. There's a great saying, isn't there? You can't pour into someone else's cup if your cup is empty. And I think that's really important to remember. You've got to look after yourself. And sometimes that means just taking your foot off the gas, even just for a couple of weeks, couple of months. Yeah. Just enjoy where you're at and then get back on it. Great quote. Was that from Dr. Glenda, maybe, for resilience? It might have been. It might have been. Because you've mentioned several times now, level up, which is a concept that we've adopted with your PT. I've been subliminally putting it out there. Maybe absolutely. Subconsciously. Yeah, Google's going to go mad after this. The algorithm's going to have a party. And we wrestled with this idea for a while because it was kind of like, right, where are we missing the gaps? How can we inspire personal trainers to develop themselves? And we landed on this theme kind of last year, Level Up. We run a series of events across the UK. I know you joined us for a few of them, Jay. Yeah. And you've sat and contributed to VIP panels as well. So we would classify this, although these events aren't accredited as CPD, but we would class a Level Up event as professionally developing because you're in an environment where you're around peers in the industry who are maybe at the same level as you. They might be a bit below, they might be a bit ahead. But also we're bringing in world-class educators who are giving success tips and tools
to thrive within the industry. But from your perspective, how important do you think it is CPD, continuing to learn and develop as a PT? How important is it in the grand scheme of things?
I think it's so important. That's a tick in the box, is it? That's right answer.
Yeah.
I think it's so important because, in a lot of ways, the PT industry is quite unregulated. So I think it's very easy once you've qualified, as you've got your level 3 and you get on the gym floor. It's very rare that someone's coming to check in on you after that and watch your sessions and make sure that you are upholding good standards. Obviously, you've got the likes of SIMSPA that you can be registered with that help support you in those endeavours to maintain certain standards. But for the most part, no one's coming to check on you.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get a bit complacent or stuck in your ways of doing things one way. And, human nature is if you're not using the skills that you've learned on those courses, you start forgetting them. So I think it's very important to keep progressing and undertaking new learning, not just for your own sake to keep the grey matter ticking over, but for your client's sake as well, because no one can know everything. No one knows all of it. So, it's going to be really beneficial for bringing in new clients if you can start expanding your service offering through new learning, but also just for your own sort of professional standards, just to keep levelling up. And whether that's through courses or working with other coaches and speaking or listening to people that have more experience than you, I think that's hugely invaluable. Yeah. And the likes of, this isn't a push of your
shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug. That's the one. But the level up events are brilliant because you get some really great speakers in covering a diverse range of subject materials. And I've come away from all of those events thinking, oh yeah, that was great. I've learned some new stuff there, and I can take that away, apply it to my clients, apply it to myself, and it's just good to keep learning. We forget how good it feels to learn, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I'll be controversial in a second as well, because I think what Level Up has done, it's created like a community network feel, because PTs often are in isolation. They might get on with the receptionist, but they're not around like-minded people who are self-employed, and they're dealing with the struggles and the stresses that come along with that, but they're also kind of hustling on a daily basis to move past it and build their businesses. So the fascinating thing for me has been the social interactions, the bonds that have been built through Level Up events as well. And those, last. And I see PTs connecting outside of the events now. Yeah. And I think that's really cool that we've kind of, been the catalyst for that to happen.
100%.
But going back to the CPD kind of importance, I think it is really important to follow continual professional development. And if you're not that way inclined, which is probably me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've settled for, I know my stuff, I know enough, but I had a big goal. Yeah. So if you are not driven towards professionally developing, you need a big goal. And what I mean by that is you will professionally develop in a different way. So you might not, it might not be, doing an online course or going and to a physical event, but you will find ways to fill in the gaps that you have.
Yes, I really agree with this actually, because it's not all just online learning or going to a night class or something to educate. I think the best things I've learned on my journey have come from working with other coaches. So if I gave one bit of advice to new personal trainers, it would probably be go and find yourself a coach that you really admire, that has a lot to say on an area that you want to skill up on. Yeah. So every year that I've been working as a coach, I have hired someone with more expertise or someone working in a field that's new to me so that I can absorb from them. Yeah. So when I first started working, I hired a strength coach because that was all very new to me. Like I said, I'm not trying to hide the fact that before I got into personal training, just moving in general was quite new to me. So I had a lot to learn. And that was fantastic. Then I went and did CrossFit for a year, where the coaches were brilliant. They were so fantastic. And I learned so much from them in terms of Olympic lifting, pinch loads of ideas for really juicy little circuits that I still use with my clients sometimes. So that was great. And most recently, I've hired an IFBB pro to come and take me through my paces. He's an online coach as well.
Yeah,
so he's put me through my paces on that. We're going quite in depth on the nutrition side of things as well. Not because I have aspirations to get in a bikini on stage anytime soon, but just so that I can understand the training principles and the nutritional principles, because there will be uses for that with my own client work.
100%.
He's also, as I say, an online coach, and that's an area that I've recently started expanding into. So I'm learning quite a lot about what a successful online business looks like and how it operates. So I can't rate it highly enough. Get yourself a coach.
Everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs accountability in their day-to-day schedule. And you know, the fact is, when you go back to your coach, you're going to have to do a check-in.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to know your stuff and have done your homework.
Yes.
But I'm a firm believer in that myself. I think having that accountability, which is obviously something all the personal trainers get with your PT, is that mentorship within the journey as well. So there is a level of accountability there that we're working with you to help attain your goals. And it sounds like that's what's happened through your experience with the strength coach. And so that's a really important...
Always work harder when you've got a coach breathing down your neck.
Yeah. And do you think you're going back to what you said at the start there, Jay, about the feeling, you're probably seeking that feeling within those sessions of, what is this experience giving me? How do I feel? How's my body reacting?
Yeah.
And you're downloading all that information and banking it to use for your clients in future years, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. We operate in a competitive environment. When you look online, it's hyper competitive. So, personal trainers need to stand out. How have you helped differentiate your services over the years, Jay, and stand out from the rest of the market from a PT perspective?
I actually have an answer for this one.
Oh.
I call it the 3 E's. I think as a personal trainer, you need empathy, you need enthusiasm, you need education, and you need engagement. Okay. Those are the 3 E's that I try and base my business around. So empathy, super important, because as soon as someone comes in for consultation, they're bringing you a problem. And often that is quite a brave thing to do, to open up to a complete stranger with a problem. So you need empathy in that moment. You need to find some common ground, put them at ease, show them that you really care and that you understand. Then you need enthusiasm, because no one is paying you to stand in a gym with your arms folded, with a face like a slapped ass, just counting reps. No one is paying for that service. No. You've got to give them a reason to keep coming back to your sessions and get enthusiastic, make every rep or every set like the biggest win in the world. If they do well, celebrate that with them. If they could have done a little bit better, find something to praise before you deliver the criticism.
Yes.
And then get them back on it for another set where you tell them, right, this time you've got it, we're going to smash this.
Yeah.
So enthusiasm is super important, because that one training session might be the highlight of their week. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. You know, they could be going through a breakup, they could be getting sacked at work, they could have a child in hospital. That one training session could be the thing they're really looking forward to most in their week. So you've just got to bring that energy and enthusiasm. And then education, I think, is a huge one. People will pay for your services as a shortcut. So they're paying for you to deliver concisely what you've spent years and probably a lot of money learning, So as coaches, we've done our qualifications. As we've touched on, hopefully we're doing CPD. We're probably poring over resources in our spare time, digesting health articles, going to classes to level up. There it is again. And people come to us because they want that expertise kind of condensed down. They don't want to have to go to, go back to school to learn what we know and pay a small fortune for the qualifications that we have. So I'm a big believer in actually educating. And I also think clients will get so much more out of your sessions if you're explaining to them not just what you're going to do, but also why you're doing it and how it's beneficial. Because if they can make that bridge in their mind between what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it, they're going to take on so much more from that explanation, which is going to help them to move better. They're going to start to get it and not just turn up and just do the thing you're telling them to do like a zombie. They're going to start thinking about it afterwards and be like, oh, that was quite interesting. Oh, maybe I'll go and learn some more about that. Yeah. And then you quiz them on it next time and they go, oh yeah, I remember that. They're going to get better mind-muscle connection. They're going to start knowing which muscles they're using so they can actually use them better. Yeah. All kind of links in. So education, really important. And then the last one is engagement. Okay. You have to get them excited to be there. So we've already touched on bringing the enthusiasm, but if you can give them some sort of community as well, I think that's huge. And I know you had Andrew Tyrrell on the show, didn't you?
We did, yeah. First one. It was the pilot
the
episode.
The pioneer, yes. And he touched on community, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important to give your clients a sense of belonging. Because at the end of the day, we're basically pack animals, right? Humans thrive in communities, but we're in a society now that's quite isolating. It can be quite lonely, and people tend to do a lot of things on their own, or maybe with a spouse. But we'll go to work, we'll come home, we'll eat, we'll put the telly on, we go to sleep, and people really, I think, long for that sense of connection. So if you can give your clients a community, whether it's, the very basic, just putting together a WhatsApp group where people can interact, or better yet, take them out for a social hike, or take them rock climbing as a group, host a coffee morning to get people together, even just introduce a couple of clients in the gym. If I had it last week, I was in with one of my clients. My other client came in, I said, oh, this is Sally, this is Christine. Have you guys met?
Yeah.
And it's just lovely because it keeps people coming back, and they start getting this sense of belonging, and that might be the most connection they've felt all week, So it's the little things like that I think will just help elevate what you're offering and get people coming back for more.
Absolutely. Yeah, it gives you the full 360 view. I love the way you put that, actually, Jay, and it's super easy to comprehend. I mean, the empathy stuff is so undervalued. I mean, the emotional intelligence that you have to develop as a PT is really important.
We're sort of therapists in a way, aren't we?
You know what? I've been thinking about this recently because there's a big thing in the industry at the moment around well-being. We're trying to strong-arm well-being into the sector some way. No one really knows how, but I think personal trainers have the answers. I think your well-being provision comes through your fitness professionals. And it's about, understanding like NLP coaching and developing that, emotional connection and helping and understanding it's a journey. It's a lifestyle sort of adaptation. So I think the empathy bit is so critical. And from an early part, you need to start endorsing that.
100%. And people will open up to you as a personal trainer as well.
Yeah.
I think it's because you don't know anyone else in their life to go and gossip to.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you come to your personal trainer and your boss is driving you mad, you can have a little bitch about your boss. Can I say that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Have a little bitch about your boss.
Just did.
Just did. It's too late now. Have a little bitch about your boss, or if your husband's had an affair, you're going to offload that to your PT because it's not going to get back to the girls at home.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on. I've heard some stories in my 3 years, which I won't share on here.
It's probably an episode in itself, isn't it?
Oh, honestly, it could be. So you are sort of a glorified therapist. And I think the secret to that then is not allowing it to emotionally drain you as a personal trainer.
Yeah. Finding
ways to deload, and if you need to share the stories from the day with a friend or a family member, then that's really important. But that hour with someone, if they're going through a really hard time, I've had sessions in the past where we've only done a couple of exercises and the client's had a little breakdown, and we've ended up just going and sitting in the cafe downstairs and just having a chat and offloading, because I think mental health is just as important as the physical health. And is that beyond my scope of practice? It probably should be. But, if you've got the empathy, you'd recognise that need, and sometimes that's more important than doing a few extra sets of squats.
Yeah, 100%. It's so valuable. And it was a quandary I found myself in as a PT, was working with clients. And I asked the client this once, actually. I said, we've been working with each other for about a year, and the initial goal was to lose weight. And having sort of assessed the progress in that period, there wasn't a lot of change. And the sessions I felt were getting a little bit more lethargic, turning up a little bit late. So we had to look at the boundaries. We had to look at the expectations again and have a bit of an iron out session. But within that session, I sort of, went back to, well, this is what we agreed at the start. And they stopped me in my tracks and they said, right, things have changed. This is actually the most fun I have in a week. It's the only hour I get to myself, and I really value, the camaraderie we have, the fact that I am doing something to improve my health. I'm not going backwards, and I'm not going forwards either.
Yeah.
But I'm happy, and I was like, okay, that was really interesting and insightful for me as well. So I think as a PT develops the relationship with their client, it's important to keep checking in.
Yeah.
To see if you are on track.
Your style, because like you say, sometimes that's kind of what people are there for. And if you're pushing the weight loss message, and they're just thinking, actually, I'm not as fussed about weight loss right now. I'm just trying to survive at the moment because I've not got much to look forward to. Then actually, sometimes the best thing you can do as a PT is just ease off that a little bit, and maybe try and get them moving a little bit more. If they don't want to worry about their nutrition, see if they're in a position to bump up to 2 sessions a week. Get them moving a little bit more if that's what they look forward to, and hopefully that will help bring the numbers up in the right direction a little bit more. But
and the enthusiastic part then is critical. Maintaining that enthusiasm,
100%,
believing in your client, giving them that inspiration that they can go and do amazing things is so important. But that only comes with having that energy and the enthusiasm.
That's it.
Amazing. Okay, the next bit I want to cover, and we'll be tying up shortly, Jay. This has gone really quick today.
So quick.
It does go quick, doesn't it?
It's gone rapid.
If you were to look back and reflect, obviously coming into the fitness industry and having experience in PR, going down a different career route initially, and then taking the stock check and entering the fitness world, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self as you reflect on, your career to date?
So all of my many careers.
Your many
to date
careers,
as a 20-year-old.
Because that for me is a difficult bracket sometimes. Let's say people who've gone down kind of a formal education route, they've done college, they've done university, still doesn't define what you want to do and who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think there's so much pressure put on young people to know exactly what they want to do from a very early age, especially if, I know not everyone goes to university, it's a very privileged thing to be able to do, but if you're planning for university, then you need to know what A-levels to take. And then if you want to do the right A-levels, you need to know what GCSEs to take. And then, so if you backtrack that much, it's sort of, is it around age 13 you start thinking about your GCSEs?
That's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
Realistically, who knows what they want to do it. There's not many 13-year-olds that wake up one morning and say, right, I'm going to be a dentist,
Well, my daughter's 13 now, and like, to ask her that question, she has no idea.
No, I know. So I think there's a lot of pressure on people to know what they'd want to do. And also where I grew up, there's a lot of pressure on people to actually go to university as well. And I think if I had my own children one day, I think I would want to let them decide what route is best for them. Because I did learn a lot of very transferable skills when I went for university, but I didn't use my degree. I did the academic side of music. It wasn't a performance degree, it was the academic side of it, which did teach me a lot of transferable skills that I then took into public relations with me. But, it also leaves you with a lot of debt for something that you've not really used that much of.
Yeah.
I would probably say, looking back over my careers, and if I was speaking to my 20-year-old self, probably to just not be afraid to break societal expectations, because we are put in this sort of hamster wheel of go to school, go to college, university, or get straight into the working world, and to just know exactly what you want to do. And then, if you go into a conventional job, do what the boss says, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, get your head down, work hard, and then repeat, and then try and climb the ranks and hope one day you get a better salary. But I think breaking out of that for me was the most terrifying thing I ever did, because I also did it in the middle of lockdown, which in hindsight was probably actually really stupid to think I could start a business in the middle of lockdown, but it all worked out. But I think sometimes you just have to take a risk. And, obviously plan for that risk and, make sure that the plan is as watertight as possible. But I think it's good to take those risks, and that taught me a lot. But yeah, just breaking free of that societal expectation to just go round the corporate hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And make your own path. There really are no rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can make your own path. You can set your own hours. You can set your own rates. There's no rules. Just do what you want to do. And if someone looks at you and says you're crazy for leaving your job in the middle of COVID, you say, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, you're right. So, and a lot of these decisions are made in high stress situations. So uncertainty, around COVID and things like that. You make decisions and you make it work. But yes,
I think that's my experience. I did the education, a degree, and I just fell into the health and fitness sector because I enjoyed it.
Because you enjoy it.
Yeah. But it was never I did sports science, so that's a really diverse subject matter. And you assume when you do a degree like this, and there might be people listening to this who are in a similar situation or have been in the same situation, where you think, I'll do sports science and I'll be like a performance officer or a development officer, work with the community. Yeah. There's literally no jobs out there.
Right.
And the people who hold them stay in them for like 60 years. So it's kind of one of them. So it's like a false narrative. But I followed something that I was really passionate about, and I didn't know where he was going to take me. I always remember, actually, a guy I went to school with. I'd finished Loughborough University, come back home. We'd settled. I started working in JJB fitness clubs. Yeah. Told my mate about it. He was like, well, you don't go to university to become a fitness instructor. And I was like, all right. Thankfully, it worked out okay. Yeah. He hasn't got a podcast studio.
I think it's amazing, actually. If you speak to people that aren't personal trainers, it's amazing how belittling they can be sometimes. Yeah. I once had a guy ask me, so how much do you charge to put someone on a treadmill for an hour and tell them to eat less? I thought, wow. Yeah. Not going to even indulge that with a response, to be honest. But but I think, people don't realise how much goes into running a successful personal training business. And
I agree.
And the qualifications that go into it.
Yeah, 100%. The good personal trainers in the industry treat it like a business and they get the rewards for it. But I can see where maybe that narrative comes from, that perception of personal trainers. I remember the image years ago, you might not have seen it, where they got what my mum thinks I do, what society thinks I do. Yeah. So, and it's always quite interesting what the external kind of perception might be. But I think now the fitness industry is getting its act together and it's leveling up, it's professionalizing the standards, and it's creating a benchmark now more than it's ever done. I think it got a bit lost. 5-10 years ago, it got a little bit lost. The entry points were diluted. So the quality of fitness professional coming into the sector wasn't great. Yeah. But now I think things are really ramping up and moving forward. And that's only going to be a positive for the future. And it's what we look for with like your academy now. You don't sign up to a course or your academy and it's guaranteed you're going to pass. It is, we do stretch you as a learner because, when you go into the industry, we want PTs to be set for success.
Well, it's how it should be, isn't it? If you're working with people's health, you want to know that, you've got safe hands on the job, It's not something you want to get wrong or mess up. So, I think we need very stringent standards for entry.
100%. We're on the last leg, Jay. So, as you know, your personal training, our mantra is to be the first and last word in personal training. So, for all the guests I've interviewed on the podcast, I always like to give the last words to the guest. So, I guess on this one, just to finish, just touching on your experience with developing professionally. What resources would you recommend to personal trainers looking to get ahead in the industry, or just looking to tighten up on a few skills?
Honestly, just to recap what we touched on before, I'd say get yourself your own coach.
Yeah.
Because it's so invaluable. Do your research, find people that are reputable, that you admire in an area that either you're already interested in, that you want to upskill on, or even stretch yourself and try something completely new and expand your service offering from what you learn from them. But I think that to me has been probably the most invaluable thing on my journey, is learning from people with more experience than me. That would be my best bit of advice. Get a coach.
Get a coach. Fantastic.
Get a coach.
And for the clients as well, get a PT.
Yeah.
Jay, that's been amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed the session today.
Oh, me too.
It's been
Thank
awesome. I think there's a ton of value in there for personal trainers, and we're all about that. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Amazing.
Great little chat.
You've done a great job, and congratulations on the success of your business. And we're looking forward to continuing our work together.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for all the opportunities and getting me on the show and just being a top guy, to be honest. It's always lovely chatting to you, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Jay. Hold the mic. Go on, just hold it and drop it.